Well, here we are. It is Wednesday, March 13th, 2024. And as I mentioned in the previous videos, we're going to cover the Doyle sale, along with we did the Christie sale, the Sotheby's auction, and previewed them for Asia Week. And now we're going to talk about the Doyle auction that's going to be taking place next week on the 19th and 20th of this month in New York City. Rick Cervantes is the in-house expert there, and he's put together a pretty nice looking sale. It runs 2 days, and they seem to have divided by value pretty evenly between the two sales. So if you're thinking that day one is necessarily much better than day two, I'm not so sure about that from what I've seen. I went through the sale. You should go to the site yourself. Not too many pictures on some lots, so you may have to get a hold of them for extra photos, so do it now. Don't wait until the day before because they'll be too busy. And get condition reports, of course, as always. Now, I want to take a look. We're going to start here on day one. There's some nice things. You can see that there's a good array of things. 318 lots on day one, and I think around the same on the second day. But there's some nice things. One of the things I wanted to point out was I'm going to go through some of the general lots, some of the things that are sort of maybe in the wheelhouse of the average collector. We're going to get into some expensive things. This was something that struck me as being awfully nice. They're dating it as late Qing. I looked at it. I think it's probably a little older than that, judging by that foot rim, probably first half of the 19th century. But Rick is pretty conservative on his dating typically, so don't let that bother you. But the decoration on this celadon ground base with underglazed blue decoration is wonderfully done. It's one of my favorite types of 19th century porcelains. I just love the combination of the greens and the blues. And it's a very, very pretty example. It's quite meticulously painted, and it looks like it's the areas that are underglazed blue look like they might be in relief. You might want to check with that because those are particularly better. That means they molded the decoration onto it, and then they paint it with the cobalt, and it's an extra layer of work, but adds quite a bit to the visual complexity. And if you look down in here, it seems you see some shadows. So I think all of this is in relief off the base. Does it say in the description? Void form decorated to show phoenix among blossoms. Okay, no, they don't mention it, but I think it is. And it's estimated at $1,000 to $1,500 with a $500 starting bid. It was drilled. Obviously, it was made into a table lamp at one point, but it's very big, 17 inches tall. That's pretty big for one of these. You don't see them that large very often. Typically, they sort of top out at around, I don't know, 12 or 13 inches maybe. So it's a good size one. And then there's this. This is very, very nice, and it's a big one. Many of you have seen this form of these Kong form celadon, Kong form cloisonné pieces before. This one's quite nice. Nice landscape scenes, rather finely detailed. He's dating it to the 18th century. It looks awfully nice. We've seen them before in auctions. They do very well typically. This one is 14 inches tall. It doesn't appear to have been drilled or anything for a table lamp, which is nice. And it's estimated at $4,000 to $6,000, which is about right, I think. And it has a $2,000 opening bid, which is, I think, very reasonable. If you're looking for a nice piece of cloisonné, that's a good example. And it'll present well because it's nice and big. You can really look at the detail and follow the landscape as you travel around it. And then the upper and lower sections here of this archaistic work, sort of to frame the picture. But it's very nicely done. Nice detail. The gilt bronze looks like it's in still pretty good shape. You see lots of gilding on those willow trees and all that good stuff. So you might want to check that out if you're a cloisonné customer. And then this struck me as being very nice. This is a really nice looking little snuff bottle. There's a bunch of snuff bottles in the sale. I should point that out. There's a number of good snuff bottles. This isn't the only one. But this one I liked a lot. It's a very nice piece of mutton fat jade, 18th or 19th century. But nice, deep relief carving, very well polished. I love the ducks coming down through the clouds and all that, or swimming through the clouds. It's beautifully done, and it looks like it's in nice shape. Has ram's head handles on the shoulders, which are a bit unusual for this type of snuff bottle. You can see them here. They're there with rings going through them. Very attractive. Estimated at $1,000 to $1,500 with a $500 opening bid. Seems like a no-brainer. I think it'll do very well. But for $500 starting bid, leave a bid on. I haven't said it in a while, but when you have these kinds of sales in New York that are going on, whether it's Bonhams or Christie's or Doyle's or the Freeman sale that's coming up on the 26th, with Heinemann, in conjunction with Heinemann. I keep wanting to say Freeman and Heinemann because but they're now part of the same company. Leave bids, register for the auction, register online, and just sort of go through and pick out the things you really, really like, put them on your watch list, and sort of carpet bomb them with opening bids and whatnot. You'll be surprised how much you get. I had an email or a message from one of my Patreon people. I was going through the messages. I didn't know the messages were where they were. I apologize for that. Some of you have sent me messages. I use Patreon to upload things, but I don't know that much about the searching through and finding messages and things. Anyway, somebody had written me and they said that they went through and they've been doing what I suggested, just leaving bids places. Just leave bids. And he's picked up a number of great things for very small amounts of money, because every auction has highs and lows. And if you're there and you're leaving bids, you're going to pick up some great pieces when they go under the money. And it's a great way to build a collection. All right. And this snuff bottle is quite nice. I like it a lot. All right, and now over to this is another piece of jade. This vase with the boys on the side. It's an 18th century example, I think. Nicely carved. Now it has this fissure going down through it, and I don't know if that's a crack or it's an inclusion in the stone. So again, get a condition report on this. It looks like an iron inclusion, but it also could be a crack. So get a condition report on that. I'm not so sure about it. It's estimated at $15,000 to $20,000. Nice color stone, 7.5 inches tall. All right, and then over to this. This struck me as being a great thing. If you have a big wall, a living room wall or something, and you live near New York, you want to try to buy this. It is huge. It is 59 inches tall, which means it's almost 5 feet in height. When you look at the sides, 5 feet up, and 98 inches long, 95 inches long. So that means it's 8 feet long. This is a great big picture, and it's of a hunting party, a very classical sort of scene. You see these hunting party scenes were done often by Ming and Qing emperors. This is a Qing example, 18th or 19th century, late Qinlong, early Chai-Qing period. But it's beautifully done. The execution, the facial expressions, the way the horses are done, the mountain landscapes, all of it. This is a great package. And if you've got a wall in your house that could take it, and you're in the market for a great painting, this is it. The estimate is $15,000 to $20,000 with a $7,500 opening bid. But it's a great piece of art, and it's a lot of area. This is a very big painting, and if you live near New York, you can go and pick it up. So that's it. You don't want to. I don't know how much it would cost to ship this, but I suspect it would be pretty expensive. So if you're in the New York area, you're at an advantage as far as trying to buy this, because you're not going to get hit with a $4,000 or $5,000 or $6,000 shipping bill. It's a great looking thing. And then this also is in that big class. This is a big picture. This is even bigger. It's 101 inches, so it's roughly 9 feet long and 61 inches tall. So it's about 5 feet by 9 feet. And it's a series of kisi panels. They're dating them as 19th century, maybe late 18th century. It's hard to tell from the picture, because they didn't provide any other images. I wish they did. But this is multiple strips, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 strips, and then fitted together like a puzzle to give you the full image. And it's all done and then framed. It's a very nice looking thing. Beautifully done with these wonderful phoenixes and the red-headed herons and pheasants, all kinds of birds in the foreground, and then some ascending birds coming down through the trees and flowers and whatnot. Very, very nice. And it's estimated, again, at $15,000 to $20,000, also $7,500 opening bid. Yeah, it'd be great to buy both of them, put one on one wall in a room and one on the other wall. Spectacular. If you do buy this, though, it doesn't appear, I don't know if it's under glass or not. If it isn't under glass, I would highly recommend getting a piece of glass for it. If it is already glassed, it doesn't say whether it's glazed or not, I don't think. It doesn't say. You might want to inquire about that. If it's not glazed, I'd put it under a piece of museum glass. Spend the money on museum glass for this. It'll filter out the light, it'll preserve it, and you can't be in a room with direct sunlight, of course, but it'll do better if it's not in the air. All right, and then this is a very neat thing. Rare Tibetan dance robe, Chinese silk, 17th to 18th century. This looks. I don't know why you want to inquire about this. This looks older to me. This looks like a Ming robe. And what they did in China was often they exported Ming robes to Tibet. And the Tibetans would reshape them. They'd recut them. They'd take the robes apart, and then they would adopt them to their own ceremonies and their own needs for religious purposes or for entertainment purposes or whatever. But that dragon looks very much like a Ming dragon. And the silk certainly looks that way. I would look into this. Now, it may have been refitted after that in the Qing dynasty, judging by some of these strips on the sleeves. But look into it, and I think it's been relined because that doesn't look like it's ever been worn. And these robes have always, when you find them, they've always been worn by somebody, and you'll see discoloration around the collar. So it may have had a relining to the interior, but it's a beautiful piece of silk. And it looks early, and it's certainly worth the $8,000 to $12,000. I think the last time we saw one like this, some of you may remember, I think it brought in the 20s. 25 or 30,000. So you want to check that out if you're a robe or a silk buyer. And then over to this. Now this is a very pretty dragon pot. It's already got a bid. It's estimated at 4,000 to 6,000, and he's dating it as Wan Li. And when I first saw it, I thought this is a transitional vase, but he's dating it as Wan Li. To me, it looks like a Shenzhe piece, but certainly, it could be Wan Li. I haven't seen it in person, so it's hard to tell. But a lot of the elements and aspects of it sure look transitional, especially the bottom of it. It's very, very nice, though, whatever it is. You're talking, transitional to late Ming. It's a Wan Li period. It's a 40-year difference, so it isn't a huge difference in time. So he may be quite correct on that, but it looks transitional to me. It's estimated at just $4,000 to $6,000 with a $2,000 opening bid. I think it'll get to the high estimate, maybe well beyond it. It's an awfully nice example, and I love the big quilling on it. It's beautifully done. He looks rather alarmed, and it's a nice piece. Get a condition report and all that. And then this very large Kangxi period charger with the tree motif. This is a very well-known pattern. They didn't make a lot of them, but they made quite a few of them. But typically they're smaller. Most of the plates you see in this pattern are 10 to 11 inches in diameter. This one is 15 inches in diameter. It's a charger. So for every one of these, they probably made 50 of the smaller ones. So the big ones are pretty rare birds. They've often been restored in my experience. So you want to check and make sure it hasn't been, but I don't see any evidence of it anywhere. So it may be perfectly fine, but at least ask about it. Make sure to ask because the estimate is very reasonable: $2,500 to $4,500 with a $1,300 opening bid, and I think it'll probably close out in around 3,000. So I think the estimate's about right. But it's a very pretty plate, very nice design, and a very popular design. A lot of people have collected this particular pattern. It's well known, and it's very pretty. And then over to this. This is a really rare thing. It is a Doyle 18th century Guanyin, seated Guanyin that's been enameled. And as you know, Doyle Blanc de Chine pieces mean that, the whitewares, and they're rarely enameled. This one was enameled. When I first saw it, I said, really? And when you look at the bottom, it's Doyle paste. It's all white up inside there. We'll get over to it in a second, but the whiteness of the skin, also of the face, the potting and so forth, the enamel decoration, these sort of almost Chinese amari looking flowers on it, and these very, very clear blue colors down below the cobalt, down below in the greens. Very crisp, very clean. This is a really unusual thing. You don't see these very often. And there's a picture of the bottom of it. And if you're familiar with Qing de Chen porcelain versus Doyle porcelain, you'll know right away that this certainly does look like Doyle Blanc de Chine. So if you're a Blanc de Chine buyer, this is a very rare thing, and it measures 6.5 inches in height. It's got a $15,000 to $20,000 estimate. It's a strong estimate, but it's not a crazy estimate because these are very, very, very rare. And if you go looking, you're going to have to look a while to find enameled ones. You'll find them in white, pure white all the time. That's the most common, obviously. But to find them enameled and originally enameled, this wasn't clobbered in Europe or anything. This was done in China. So it's very unusual because they didn't do a lot of enameling in Doyle in that part of China. All right, and that's sort of the end of that day, of the first day, but it's nowhere near all of it. But I want to get both sales into this, so we're going to go there. But go to the sale, go to either go to Live Auctioneers or go to if you're a bit amount a global member or a Patreon user, you can go to our pages and go through it. We've posted the pieces there, and of course you can go to Doyle site and look there as well. There's lots of options to go to get better pictures, and then but do get a hold of them right away. Auctioneers hate to get messages, urgent messages for lots of condition reports and so forth the day before the auction. I can tell you, I ran auctions, and auctioneers are very, very busy the day before a sale. They're doing all the technical stuff, catching up with people, answering the last questions, and there's a flood of them that seem to pour in the last 48 hours. So do it this week, maybe. All right, there's this. This is in the second day. Very handsome pair of Kangxi period gilt and cobalt blue decorated jars with their lids. I don't know there's no condition report with these, but they look like they're in great shape. And these are big. These are pretty good sized jars. I want to get the size in here so you get it. 16.5 inches each. Those are big jars. And they look very beautiful together. They really do. The lids are original, obviously, and often you see these jars, they don't have lids anymore. This is 2 jars with 2 original lids, which is a nice thing to have. And the gilding is in very good condition all the way around. And they did provide some great pictures of the bottom. So there you go. And that they look absolutely fine as Kangxi based on that, and the way this mouth looks here. So I think they're fine. They're estimated at just $2,000 to $4,000, which seems very low to me. And $1,000 opening bid. So get a condition report. They don't mention that they've been restored or anything, but there's no condition reports on any of these lots that I've seen. So you want to get a condition report and see if anything's been done to these. And if nothing's been done, expect them to bring somewhere in the area of 4,000 to 6,000, 5,000 to 7,000, I would think, because a single one of these in that size is worth about 2,500 to 3,500, and you've got a pair here. So do the old 2.5 times the price of a single to get an accurate estimate. So maybe 6,000 to 8,000 for them, but they're absolutely gorgeous, and who knows, they may take off, because the gilding is all intact. The gilding is in great shape pretty much throughout. I don't see a lot of wear to the gilding anywhere. Tiny bits of it, but nothing much. These are very attractive. And then over to this, there's a couple of these transitional period vases, and they both have gilded mounts on them. So I suspect they perhaps came from the same collector. But these look absolutely fine. I don't know how big the hole is in the bottom. I suspect they just drilled it, but beautifully mounted. And the jars are 11 inches tall each. The estimate is very modest, $8,000 to $1,200. Expect these to probably bring 3,000 or 4,000, I would think. And it's table lamps, maybe more, because the decorators love these, and they might even pay 5,000 to 7,000 for them. And this is the other one, different coloration, but again gilded, gilt mounts. And this has this beautiful iron red background with vines and flowers and all that sort of thing. Very, very pretty. And it's the same size as the other one, I think. I think it's still that also. Yeah, 11.5 inches. Same estimate, $8,000 to $1,200, $400 opening bid. Again, very, very. What was the estimate of this? 8 to 12. They were both 8 to 1,200 with $400 bids. Very low. Expected again to bring 2,000 or 3,000 at least, or up 3,000 or 4,000. Because these transitional pieces have gotten so much attention lately, and they're popular when they start to flood the market with fakes. That's sort of the sign that a certain style has really arrived when the porcelain guys over in Qingdachen start turning out lots of copies. And as you know, the market right now is flooded with transitional type copies of the originals. All right, and then over to this. This is coming up. This is a late Qing a bronze of a Guan Yin seating it on a lotus, riding on a Fulan. Now this doesn't look late Qing to me. I have to say, it caught my eye. The details around the face and so forth. Maybe there's something about it that makes them think that. But this, to me, looks much more likely to be an 18th century bronze on a very nice cloisonne base, or early 19th century. But it's an awful nice looking bronze, very beautiful. But as I said, Rick tends to be pretty conservative, and this is huge. Also, this is the other thing. This thing is 37 inches. It says here, and I'm not quite sure how they arrived at the 18th century the 19th century or late Qing dating. It looks older than that, but this is very big. It has a $5,000 to $7,000 estimate. I think that's very inexpensive. I think that's a very, very low estimate for a piece that's over 3 feet in length. This thing is huge, and I don't know what it'll bring, but if it's as good in person as it looks in these photographs, I would think it would bring 10 or 15,000. But it's only estimated at 5,000 to 7,000. I think that estimate is extremely low. But we'll see. We'll see. You never know. It's an auction, so any number of things could happen. Maybe in person it looks late Qing, but I don't think it is. It certainly doesn't look it. It looks like an 18th century example. But maybe one of you know why he says that. I don't know. And then there's this. Another bronze that showed up here, large seated bronze, and he's calling it Ming style. And I hope one of you go to the preview and let me know what this thing looks like. He didn't provide a picture of the bottom of it, but it looks like an older bronze to me. Now, it may be that somebody has treated the surface to make it look older. I'm not sure. But it's got some pretty, it looks pretty good as an old bronze, as an 18th century or earlier bronze. So I'm curious as to why. Now maybe in person it's obvious by the surface that it's more recent, but it's just done as Ming style with no dating on it of the Shakyamuni casting, with as he says, serene downcast. It is 16 inches tall. It's a nice looking bronze. Maybe it's a 19th century, but I don't know how old it is from the pictures because I can't look up inside of it and see how they cast it. So it's a little bit tricky to do, but it's certainly worth looking at if you're going to the preview, or if you're interested, maybe they have some better pictures of it, of the base, and some close-ups. All right, and then over to this. This is coming up, 18th century carved bamboo figure of there he is, Hotai, holding a coin for good luck in the new year, make some money, and beautifully done. I love how the hand comes out from under the robes, and then the way the toes are done. A lot of detail in this. And this is a nice example, and it's pretty good size. It's 6 inches tall, which is about right for one of these. It's estimated at just $800 to $1,200. If it's 18th century, it'll do better than that. It should bring 2,000 or so, or maybe a little bit more. I think it's very nice. It looks like it could use a little bit. It looks like something got splattered on it, maybe. So if you buy it, you may have to use some oil and sort of wipe it down a few times. Some that Howard's waxing feed or something to condition it, and it might clean some of this up. I suspect that'll come off. But it's a nice little Buddha figure in bamboo. And then this. They just dated as Qing Dynasty of a seated figure, 4 inches long of an immortal with a beard. But the carving on this is really fine, and the polishing is excellent. It's excellent. Look, it's soapstone, but it looks like jade. It looks like mutton fat jade the way it's carved, because it's so well carved. And he's wearing a sort of a feathered, waistcoat or skirt here. But the beard, the eyes, all the details are excellent on it. He's holding a palm fan, shaped like a palm leaf, and there's the bottom of it. This is a nice piece of soapstone, beautifully done, beautiful quality. The face is really exceptional, and it's been beautifully inked. And it's only estimated $800 to $1,200 with a $400 opening bid. Seems it'll easily reach that, and with the popularity of these today, these things are very, very popular. But if you'd like to own it, register. And leave a $500-600 bid on it. You may get lucky. You never know. And it takes so. How many times have you gone to an auction after everything's sold, and you say, I would have paid that, and it's because somebody else got it because they left bids. Don't be that guy, as they say. Don't be the guy that misses it, or the woman that misses it. And then this is a really interesting China trade painting, mid-19th century. Or so, and it's a fire, obviously, all right, and you don't see many of these. Not a lot of paintings were done of these. But what I find interesting is that there's this frantic fire going on in the middle of the picture, and you've got 15 or so people trying to put it out, because once a fire gets going, obviously, a lot of bucket brigades here up from the river and so forth. But then you have these two over here sort of having a casual discussion, and you see people hauling grain. Maybe they're saving the grain from the storage area, but then you have these people sort of coming across the bridge. A couple of men carrying lances or something, and they're just sort of coming along, going over the bridge. Oh, look, a fire! It's sort of funny because this scene is so dramatic, and this scene just a few feet away is so much calmer. And it looks like it's in nice condition. It's a very interesting painting. And I don't know where it was, obviously, but it's not a particular. I don't think it's a particularly recognizable landmark or anything. But it's an interesting picture, and it's only estimated $2,000 or $3,000 with a $1,000 opening bid, and it's 27 inches wide, so it's a pretty big canvas, nice sized canvas. A street level scene of it's part of the it's a scene from one of the great fires of Canton, they believe. Okay. But it looks like it's a little far away from Canton. It looks like it's more of a rural scene, but it may be. But it's an interesting scene because of the activity and the people that are going on in it. So you have to sort of read the painting. And then over to this. This is neat. If you like, everybody knows I like carving, so I lean on carvings heavily. This is nice. It's a Z10 brush washer, probably 18th century, and a couple of these have been on the market lately. I have to say, there's been a few of them, and they've all done. There's a number of them that are done sort of shaped like almost like brush pots, and then there are these lower size versions that don't have quite as much height. But they do very well in auction. This one has a very modest estimate, $400 to $600. The last one of these that I saw sell went for over $2,000, around $2,400, I believe. So keep that in mind. Don't be surprised if it gets there. He's just dating it as Qing Dynasty because, again, he doesn't want to, speculate too much. But to me, it looks like it's probably 18th century or maybe early 19th century, but not any later than that. They didn't produce a lot of these in the late Qing Dynasty, but it's very nice looking, and it's Zeton wood, apparently. So that makes it quite valuable all by itself. And then over to this is Swanwali 18th or early 19th century bamboo carved brush pot, but it's Swanwali wood. It's beautiful, beautiful wood, nicely done. It's got a split coming off the bottom, which is not uncommon on these, so don't let it bother you too much. It still has its plug in the bottom. And there's the base of it. It's got nice wear. And the surface of the wood color looks quite good. So if you're interested in this, always ask them, is that the color? Because it has a very warm honey tone. And if that's the color, that's a really good Huanwali color. It hasn't been dried out too much. It's estimated at $3,000 to $5,000 with a $1,500 starting price. And it should get up to $3,000 or $4,000, I would think. It's a nice looking piece of bamboo. And then last, we're going to talk about this. This is a painting that was of a lady done after Tang Yin, but they think it was painted in the Qing Dynasty. Now, this isn't Tang Ying, the overseer of the kilns during the Yongchen and Qinlong period and Kangxi, that guy. It's a different one. It's Tang Yin. And he was a 15th and 16th century Ming painter. He died around 1535, 1540, somewhere in there. And he popularly painted women, sort of these elongated women, these very elegant robes, and done in this style. It's very much in his style. So they're saying it's after, so they think it's a Qing Dynasty copy of his work. And either way, it's a wonderful thing. If it were by him, it would be an extremely valuable painting. And the estimate is really reasonable. If you want to buy a great piece of probably 18th century Chinese art, the sight size on this, the height of this painting, is bigger than it looks. It's 14 inches tall, so it's pretty good size. It's got a $600 to $800 estimate with a $300 opening bid. I think that's and it's only got one bidder right now watching this item on Live Auctioneers, and that's because the auction just got up. So it's got another few days to go. This auction is going to be on the 20th, so it's going to be in 7 days, a week from today. But do check that out if you like paintings. That's a nice painting, beautifully done, and the estimate basically says there's no reserves. And many of the lots in the sale have a nice low estimate. So in other words, the reserves aren't a major concern, I think, for much of the sale. So we'll see. But anyway, that's sort of a quick preview of this auction. I wanted to get it up before we ran out of time and get it too close to the sale, because I know a number of you will probably want to call Doyle's and get some information or email them for condition reports. And it's time to do it right now, so you don't crowd them up at the end and you don't get the information you want, and then you don't end up bidding. All right. So there we go. Have a great week. I've got a few. There's other videos I have to get out. We're going to talk about the sales taking place at the Heinemann Freeman thing, which aren't until the 26th. So we've got a little bit of time for that, but we'll get those done. And the weekly video coming in a couple of days. So thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. And see you next time. All right. Bye-bye.